as a surgeon, I don't always believe in surgery. And the reason for that is because I know that it doesn't always fix everything, and especially it doesn't always fix pain, because it's a complicated thing, and sometimes you can have more problems after surgery. So my personal experience is I avoid surgery at all costs. As a surgeon, it's a very physical job, and a lot of surgeons develop hand problems. In 2020, during
Wait a second. Do you understand? It's a meticulous act, and you're using those tendons, and you're using those fingers, and you're using your hands quite a bit, and you're doing very, very skillful moves. You do that a lot, sometimes you get in trouble.
Right. So during 2020 lockdown, I developed severe carpal tunnel symptoms in both of my hands, as well as some tendon problems. So carpal tunnel is where there's a connective tissue band along your wrists, and if repeated hand movements, it'll cause inflammation. And then you compress the nerve, which is the median nerve, which gives you sensation and movement in these first three fingers. And so it causes pain, it causes weakness, because you're pinching the nerve, which is sending the sensation to tell your hands what to do. The long-term effects of that is that if it goes for too long, you can actually have irreversible damage to your hands. And so things like not just not being able to do surgery, but brush my hair and just take care of myself could happen if I didn't take care of it.
So there's a lot of pain, and there's a lot of weakness, and a lot of change in motor function, because there's a rock on the garden hose, and the water can't get to the hand, and so it loses life force, it loses information, it loses nerve supply. And this area right here, the tendons swell, the ligaments swell, and it gets all crowded in there. And the nerves get pinched, and the vascular system sometimes gets occluded as well. And it's very difficult to get away from.
So it was in both of my hands, and the funny thing is that as a surgeon, I don't always believe in surgery. And the reason for that is because I know that it doesn't always fix everything, and especially it doesn't always fix pain, because it's a complicated thing, and sometimes you can have more problems after surgery. So my personal experience is I avoid surgery at all costs. Just sort of ironic.
This is a surgeon. Now that's a good doctor, wouldn't you say?
So I just tried to self-medicate. I did ice packs, acupuncture, I had massage every week, I did gua sha, I did everything I could.
Anti-inflammatories?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah. A little bit if I had to, but I just didn't like the effects of that on my stomach and my system. So I tried to do everything I could to avoid surgery, and it just wouldn't get better. So because it was locked down, it was hard to see an orthopedic surgeon, and because I have managed care, it was also really hard to get in to see a doctor.
A doctor can't see a doctor. Isn't that weird? In the United States, that's normal.
It is. So eventually, so that was in 2020. In 21, I got a nerve study. So this is a thing called an EMG. And what it does is it's sort of the diagnostic for carpal tunnel. They test the nerve conduction. They're essentially looking at the electrical flow in that nerve and see if it's blocked, and that's how they diagnose it. So that was in February of 2021. I had a nerve study, and I said I had clinical carpal tunnel in both hands. And when they can confirm that, then the suggestion is to have surgery to fix that, because it's just going to keep going down that road, and eventually, like I said, you can have long-term irreversible damage to your hands. So because I had it in both hands, I met with an orthopedic surgeon, and she suggested I have both of my hands operated on. Not simultaneously, because, how do you take care of yourself if you have both your hands in a cast? So she suggested to do one hand, and then a couple weeks later do the other hand. I'm right-hand dominant, so I'd had my left hand first because I needed to take time off from work. So I had my left hand operated on, and I went back to work in 3 weeks, and I was in so much pain still, and she said, you can go back to work in a couple weeks, it'll be fine. I had pain for 3-4 months recovering from it on my left hand, and so I postponed the right hand, and I didn't feel better. I had pain, I had new pain from surgery, and then my symptoms were still there. So I was really disappointed in that. So I just didn't do the other hand. And I just continued to do the other alternative types things to just get through it. I found this work probably in September of 2021. And I decided I want to go to a retreat. And as my family would know, when I go in, I go all in. I'm just like, when I ran marathons, I ran like 4 marathons in a year. I just go all in.
I want you to listen to that, because this is the common theme amongst people that heal. They just go all in. Go ahead.
So in September, I did the Progressive Online. I did do it because I'm that type A personality. And
Whoa, wait a second. No, you did the Progressive workshop?
I did.
Before you came to your retreat, did you do the meditations too?
A little bit.
Okay.
I did the breath, though.
Okay.
I don't know if I did it right, but so I actually really had no idea what I was getting into, but it was a week long, and like I said, I'm an all-in kind of person, so I just was like, let me just do this. So I showed up in Cancun in 2021, and I had no idea what to expect. And really, my intention at that time was to feel more whole. I was looking at my journal entry from that right before I went down to register, and it said, I just want to come to feel more whole, have less judgment for myself and others, and just open my heart. That was my intention. And I showed up and I actually had booked my flight to leave early on Sunday, because I know it goes into the Sunday late, but I thought it's a week long, and I've been to conferences before, and I usually am like, I need to get out of here by the last day. So
Confession is good for the soul.
But it's an important part of the story, because my healing happened on the very last day, the very last meditation of the last day, and I would have missed it if I had not changed my flight. On the last day, we did the body electric meditation. I don't know if we'll do that.
It's in your future.
So it started as a sitting, lying down, and then energy started moving. And I was mortified, totally mortified, because I was moving around and I couldn't
Now, does she
control.
look like the type of person that's going to be moaning on the floor and rolling around? It could be somebody like this, all of you that are judging people for having a moment.
It was my nightmare, really. So
You don't want to do it, I know. Yes, this is not the right moment to make those sounds.
And then, so when we finished and we opened our eyes, because I'd been flopping around on the ground like a fish, like a fish out of water.
Does she look like the type of person who would be doing that for attention? No.
I opened my eyes, and one of my friends who was next to me, he was like this in his blanket.
He wasn't your friend in that moment.
So he was, I couldn't explain it. Anyway, so after the lying down meditation, you have to go back, you have to go on the beach, and it's a beautiful beach in Cancun. And you start doing the last of the body electric walking meditation.
That's in your future, too.
And energy started moving again. And this was even more horrible, because we were standing up in the beach and everyone had their eyes open. So I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening.
Here it comes.
And I could have stopped it, but I was a little bit interested. I was like, what is happening here? So I just wrote it out. And luckily I didn't hit a tree. So you stand and you have your eyes closed, and then you walk, and then you stand again, and energy just kept moving through my body, and I was just horrified, because
By the way, this is the unknown experience that she's been trying to create the whole entire time. Now the unknown experience is coming. She's horrified by the unknown. Oh my God, I'm going to actually have to lose control here. Whoa.
But I just stuck with it. The group was not as big as this group, though. It was only 1,500. So eventually, the energy stopped moving through me. And when that happened, I was filled with this love. There's this amazing feeling of love that was so familiar, but unfamiliar, like Dr. Joe says. And it was so beautiful. And then I opened my eyes and I walked again. And at that point, I kind of saw all of the people on the beach with different eyes, and just was able to see how beautiful everybody was. And I noticed that I had this weird sensation in my hands, and it felt like a hot metal plate was on this hand and this wrist here, and this one was a little bit smaller, and this one was bigger, and I'm so detail-oriented, you can tell I'm a surgeon, so I could measure it. So it felt like a little hot metal plate on both of my wrists and hands, and I thought, well, that's weird. But I just kept walking, and then at the end of the meditation, you lay down on the grass. And at that point, I felt like my wrist disappeared. I can't describe it any other way than it just was gone on both of my hands. And I thought, oh, that's weird. But I just kept going. Something had happened. Because I'm a clinician, I need evidence. And so I thought, why don't I get another nerve study? So I asked my doctor to order another nerve study for no particular reason, other than I said, well, I made something up, like I need to know whether I should have surgery. And I had another nerve study in February of this year. Same doctor who did my nerve study a year ago. And I told him how I didn't have surgery on this hand, and I just wanted to know how my symptoms were if I needed to go ahead and get surgery. And he did the nerve study, and he looked at it, and he's like sitting at the computer, and he's like, it's normal. And so then he pulled up the other study to do side by side, and he's like, okay, well, they're normal. And he's like, but that doesn't mean you don't have carpal tunnel anymore. I said, oh, okay.
Keep the curse.
And I just said, well, does that happen? He goes, it can, if you stop doing whatever you're doing, and I haven't stopped being a surgeon. So I took that information and I made an appointment with my orthopedic surgeon, and because I have managed care, it took me like 2 more months to get an appointment with her. And I explained to her that I hadn't had surgery on this other hand, and I needed to know whether I should have it, and if she would look at my new nerve study. I didn't tell her what happened, I just let her look at it. So she was sitting at the computer and she pulled it up and she was like, it's normal. And then so she like pulled up the other nerve study and she's like, Then she checked to see if it was the same doctor who did it, and she's like, oh, he's really good. I'm like, I know, he's really good. And she's like, it's normal. I said, does that happen? She's like, well, it can, if you're not doing what you're doing. And I'm like, but I'm still operating. And she's like, okay, well, good job. Yeah, so that's my story.